So I'm sure many therapists would have had the experience of, finding that there's a bit of a tricky session, not a lot of content, maybe the client's being a bit avoidant. And then right at the end, 5 minutes before the end of the session, a really important thing comes out. It will be really distressing for the client, but you've got 5 minutes. And as a clinician, you feel like you're abandoning that client. That's one expression of the abandonment schema that we're talking about today. Welcome to 7-Minute Schemas. I'm Ruth Holt.
And I'm Rita Unan, and we are clinical psychologists and advanced schema therapist supervisor trainers, and we are working through all the 18 maladaptive schemas, and today we're here to talk about abandonment. So maybe, Ruth, we could just start with how abandonment kind of develops in individuals. A lot of people think that it's more about someone just having left or died or something to that effect. But if you have a look at Jung's definition of the schema, it also talks about instability. So perhaps the early environment was quite unstable. There was a lack of predictability, a lack of consistency.
A lack of protection too, I think sometimes, that parents who maybe were well-meaning but just not really on the ball, kind of allowing things to happen and they're not really aware.
Yeah, so it's kind of that lack of containment and security, because really the abandonment is about this lack of security in the early environment.
Mm. And so what we would ideally want for our clients is, that stable base where they feel that there's a safe and secure person that they can then rest in, but also explore from. These clients often have not had that stable base. And so that's really important when we're beginning therapy with people with an abandonment schema, that we are very proactive about that. So, for people with a significant abandonment schema, you will want to have a session at the same time on the same day every week if possible. Have a predictable kind of sense of how the session will go, and not just do those things with the client but put the words on it. So as therapists, we want to say, the reason why I'd like to have a weekly session with you at this time is I know you've not had a lot of stability growing up. I know you've not had people looking out for you in that way, and I want to show you how that feels. I want you to be able to rest in the predictability of our relationship, particularly early on. Same with things like transition objects, really starting to build a connection, because these clients often feel very alone outside of session, and that can be really therapy interfering when maybe you do some good work in session, but the schema will say, that's fine in this room, but then you're gone and you're not there with me. So we want to provide transition objects, little pieces of fleece or something personal for them. That's a reminder of the connection between us.
You just mentioned the fleece, Ruth, and that is something that was introduced to schema therapy by Joan Farrell and Ida Shaw and their group schema therapy protocol. And you and I really use a lot of, we introduced that in our training with the BPD complex trauma. I think one of the things that is really important to remember, and I've had patients tell me that this has happened to them, is that if you offer these things, this stability, predictability, and talk about, I want to really kind of work on this abandonment schema and give you this predictability, and then take it away or not do it or not deliver. And, I'm sure, as therapists, we have the best of intentions in offering those things. It's really important, again, that we're able to deliver it and not become resentful because we're self-sacrificing, let's say, because of our own schemas, and then wanting to withdraw that and then pretty much solidifying that schema for that particular individual.
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? That we are mindful of that in our interactions. We're mindful of that when we're doing our imagery rescripting, that we want to really bring a lot of stability and repetition. If we're doing imagery rescripting with clients, we want to record it so that they can listen to it and have that repetition of experiencing predictable care. I think it's really helpful to particularly also talk to clients about partner choices, right? So if their schema is driving their attraction to people who are emotionally unavailable, or who are going to be, even in jobs where they're variably present, that's going to be really tough for a person with abandonment schemas. So that's an important part of treatment, is actually working on those schema chemistry issues.
Ruth, that's really, really important. And so one of the things we're talking about is creating safety and stability. But what about when we start to move to autonomy? And so we give patients this experience of stability and safety in this relationship, but then how do we get them to terminate therapy? That sometimes becomes a little bit of a difficulty. And what a lot of people, when it comes to schema therapy, some of the first things that that I hear with the limited reparenting part of someone with an abandonment schema is, but then we're just fostering dependency. So we do need to have a way of encouraging them to look after themselves and not rely entirely on the relationship.
I agree. I think, that's where it's really important when you're doing the imagery work to have the client's healthy adult come in. When you've done some of that early imagery work, then as therapy progresses, they then become the healthy adult or the good parent who comes in and does that nurture. I think it's important to tell stories about, where we're positioning them in the position of a good parent. So I'll sometimes say to clients, if I came and deposited a little 5-year-old foster child in your home right now who'd never had stability in their life, what would you be doing? As that good parent for that little foster child, what would you be doing? What would you not be doing? So I'm trying to position them also to learn some of those autonomy and caring and self-soothing skills, so that as we move on in therapy, they grow in their autonomy, just like in a developmentally appropriate way that children do. When they're very young, we don't expect autonomy, but when they're 18, we do expect it.
Absolutely. And also choosing healthy relationships as well.
Well, there's our 7 minutes up, Rita, but we would love to see more and talk more with people about that at the training that we're offering, both online and hopefully face-to-face. Those details are at the end of the video.